First contact and revelation. The observation vessel Tranquil Observer hung silently in the void, its adaptive camouflage rendering it nearly invisible against the backdrop of stars. Inside, Science Director Xillian studied the blue-green world on the main display with a mixture of fascination and unease. His six-fingered hands moved gracefully over the console, adjusting the sensors to penetrate the planet's swirling cloud cover. "Most unusual," he murmured, his voice a melodic chirp that filled the quiet bridge. "The atmospheric oxygen levels alone should make this world uninhabitable. Yet life not only exists, but thrives." His assistant, Talia, a slender being with translucent skin that rippled with bioluminescent patterns, moved to his side. "The dominant species is particularly concerning, Director. Their physiological readings are troubling." The display shifted to show thermal images of bipedal creatures moving through artificial structures. Xillian zoomed in on one specimen, and the ship's computers automatically overlaid anatomical data. "Endoskeletal structure with remarkable density," Xillian noted. "Impressive musculature. Cardiovascular system designed for sustained exertion. And these brain patterns." He trailed off, mandibles clicking softly in the Alaxi expression of concern. "They appear to be apex predators," Talia said, stating what both already knew. "Indeed, and yet they've developed advanced technology, art, complex social structures." Xillian's inner eyelids blinked rapidly, a sign of deep thought. "The Galactic Union has encountered predator species before, but they rarely advance beyond tribal warfare. These beings, these humans, have achieved spaceflight while still displaying all the biological markers of hunters." Talia's skin flashed patterns of caution. "The Union Council must be informed immediately. Standard protocols would suggest containment." Xillian continued studying the data, particularly fascinated by human medical records the ship's AI had extracted from the planet's primitive information networks. "They heal from injuries that would be fatal to any Union species," he said quietly. "Their pain tolerance is extraordinary. They can function with minimal sleep, survive extreme temperature variations, and their digestive systems can process substances toxic to most sentient life. All traits of evolved predators," Talia agreed. "Precisely why containment." "Perhaps," Xillian interrupted, surprising his assistant. He was not known for discourtesy, but observed their cultural achievements, their arts, their sciences. They've repeatedly united despite biological programming that should drive them to constant conflict. He paused the display on an image of human children playing. "I believe we should recommend first contact rather than containment. The Union has grown complacent in its peace. Perhaps we need to understand these predators." 3 months later, Ambassador Genres stood at the viewport of the diplomatic vessel Harmonious Bridge as it approached Earth orbit. Unlike the Tranquil Observer, this ship made no attempt to hide. Its gleaming hull caught the sunlight, deliberately designed to appear majestic and non-threatening. "Beautiful world," commented Commander Pelax, the ship's security chief. The reptilian officer's scales shimmered with subtle blue highlights, indicating professional tension. Hard to believe it produced such dangerous beings. Genra, whose species had evolved from herd animals on a world of rolling plains, felt an instinctive unease at the thought of meeting predators. But centuries of diplomatic training kept her voice steady. "Remember, Commander, the Union Council approved this mission specifically to assess whether humans pose a threat or could become allies. With respect, Ambassador, beings evolved from apex predators are always threats. It's encoded in their biology." The ship's AI interrupted. "Earth authorities have cleared us for approach. They're directing us to a landing facility in a region called Switzerland." Hours later, Genra led the small delegation across the tarmac. The gravity pulled at her body uncomfortably, and the oxygen-rich air made her dizzy despite the filtration implants. How could anything evolve to find these conditions normal? The human delegation waited at a respectful distance. Genra studied them carefully. They stood upright with an ease that seemed impossible under such crushing gravity. Their movements were quick and precise, a predator's efficiency, she thought, then chided herself for prejudice. "Welcome to Earth," said the lead human, a female named Dr. Elena Reyes. "We are honored to be the first to receive visitors from beyond our world." The meeting proceeded with remarkable smoothness. The humans had prepared facilities with adjusted gravity and atmospheric composition for their visitors' comfort, a thoughtfulness genre had not expected from predator species, whose empathy typically extended only to their immediate social groups. Over the following days, the diplomatic mission expanded into cultural exchange. Genre found herself increasingly fascinated by human contradictions. They created art of exquisite beauty and music that moved even alien emotions, yet their history was scared by warfare. They showed remarkable kindness to the weak, yet their entertainment often glorified violence. On the fifth day, during a private meeting with Dr. Rice, Genre finally asked the question that had troubled her. "Your species evolved as hunters, yet you've created societies based on cooperation. How do you reconcile these opposing instincts?" Rice smiled, a gesture Genre had learned meant friendly intention, despite its evolutionary origin as a display of teeth. "We don't see them as opposing at all. The same traits that made us successful hunters, teamwork, communication, strategic thinking, now serve us in building civilization. Yes, we have violent instincts, but we've learned to channel them." The conversation was interrupted by an urgent communication. Commander Pilax's voice came through Genre's translator implant. "Ambassador, you must return to the ship immediately. We've detected unauthorized vessels approaching Earth orbit." The diplomatic mission quickly transformed into crisis management. 3 ships of unknown origin had bypassed Earth's primitive detection systems and were positioning themselves for what appeared to be a raid, a common occurrence in less developed systems where pirates targeted new spacefaring civilizations for their resources. "We should withdraw to safety," Commander Pilax advised as Genre returned to the Harmonious Bridge. "Our vessel is diplomatic, not military, and leave humans to face their first extraterrestrial threat alone." Dr. Rice had accompanied the ambassador back to her ship. "We've barely achieved reliable spaceflight. We have no defense against advanced weapons." Genre faced a difficult decision. Union protocols were clear: non-interference in conflicts involving non-member worlds. Yet allowing pirates to attack Earth during first contact seemed unconscionable. Before she could decide, Earth made its own choice. Satellite feeds showed military installations around the planet mobilizing with remarkable speed. "What are they doing?" Pilax asked, bewildered. "Their weapons can't possibly reach orbit effectively." Dr. Rice studied the tactical display. "We're improvising." Her voice held no fear, only focused determination. "Those raiders picked the wrong planet for their first visit." What followed astonished the Union representatives. Humans launched a coordinated response using technologies that, while primitive by galactic standards, were employed with stunning tactical creativity. They repurposed satellites into debris weapons. They used their limited orbital capabilities not for direct attacks, but to create confusion in the raiders' sensor systems. And when one raider vessel broke through to land, seeking plunder, they encountered something the galaxy's pirates had never faced: an apex predator species fighting to protect its home. "They don't retreat," Pilax whispered, watching the feed as human military forces engaged the raiders with primitive but effective weapons. "Even when injured, they keep fighting." Genre observed with growing understanding. "They're not just protecting themselves. They're protecting their entire pack, their whole species." The raiders, accustomed to intimidating less aggressive species, found themselves overwhelmed not by superior technology, but by the sheer relentless determination of humanity. Within hours, the attempted raid had been repelled, with 2 pirate vessels destroyed and 1 captured intact, an intelligence bonanza for both Earth and the Union. In the aftermath, the Union delegation gathered to prepare their report to the Council. Commander Pilax reviewed security footage with professional appreciation. Their tactical adaptability is remarkable. Most species follow predictable defense patterns based on evolutionary behaviors. Humans improvise constantly. More concerning, added Talia, who had transferred from the Tranquil Observer, they showed no hesitation in employing lethal force when threatened. The decision-making speed alone is disturbing. Genra considered this. Yet they showed restraint when the raiders attempted surrender. True predators rarely stop once the killing begins. The debate continued into the night. By morning, Genra had made her recommendation. Humanity should be offered probationary membership in the Galactic Union. Her report acknowledged the potential dangers posed by a predator species with advanced technology, but emphasized humanity's capacity for cooperation, innovation, and ethical restraint. They are dangerous, she concluded in her private log. But perhaps the galaxy needs a little danger to balance our complacency, and better to have these humans as allies than potential enemies. The Union Council received her recommendation with mixed reactions. The vote on human membership would be contentious, divided between those who saw opportunity and those who feared the introduction of predators into their peaceful coalition. Meanwhile, on Earth, humans began their own debates about joining the galactic community. Unaware of the biological categorization that troubled their new allies, they focused instead on the possibilities that awaited them among the stars. Neither humanity nor the Union realized how crucial their decision would become, as beyond the known territories, a threat was emerging that would test the limits of the galaxy's peaceful civilization, a threat that would make humanity's predatory nature not a liability, but perhaps their greatest asset. Humanity Unleashed. 5 years after Earth joined the Galactic Union as a probationary member, the diplomatic vessel Harmonious Bridge drifted in orbit around Nexus Station, the massive habitation ring that served as the Union's primary outpost in the Orion Arm. Ambassador Genra stood at the viewport, her four-fingered hands clasped behind her back as she studied the station's elegant architecture. "Beautiful, isn't it?" said Captain Miguel Santos, the human liaison officer assigned to her delegation. "Hard to believe it houses 5 million beings from 300 different species." Genra nodded, her long neck gracefully bobbing. "The Union has perfected the art of harmony through diversity. Each species contributes its unique perspective." She turned to face Santos, noting as always the fluid efficiency of human movement. "Your people have integrated more quickly than anyone expected." Santos smiled, the expression no longer triggering Genra's instinctive fear response as it had in their early meetings. "We're adaptable. It's what humans do best." Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent communication. "Ambassador, Captain, your presence is requested in the Emergency Council chamber immediately," came the voice of Nexus Station's administrator. When they arrived, the chamber was already filled with representatives from 24 worlds. The atmosphere crackled with tension. "The Vex have attacked again," announced Elder Thune, the ancient molluscoid who headed the station's Security Council. The main display activated, showing footage of a devastated outpost. "Outpost Lumina has fallen. 3,000 dead, the rest taken." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The Vex had appeared at the edge of Union space 8 months earlier, a previously unknown species that communicated only through violence. They attacked without warning or apparent motive, destroyed resistance, and vanished with captives and resources. "Conventional defense strategies continue to fail," Thune continued, his voice grave. "The Vex adapt to our tactics with each encounter. Our predictable responses have become our greatest weakness." Captain Santos studied the tactical display with narrowed eyes. "You're fighting like prey," he said, his voice cutting through the murmurs. Silence fell. Genra winced internally at his bluntness, a characteristic human trait that still challenged Union diplomatic protocols. "Explain, Captain," Elder Thune requested, showing no offense. Santos moved to the central display, adjusting the holographic representation of Union defense formations. "Your species evolved as prey animals. When threatened, you form defensive circles, protect the vulnerable in the center, present a unified front." He gestured to the neat, orderly arrangements. Tactically sound when facing traditional predators. But the Vex aren't traditional predators. They're hunting you systematically, and you're responding exactly as they expect. And how would humans respond? Asked a representative from the Krill Collective, their exoskeleton clicking softly in what Genra recognized as skepticism. Santa's expression shifted to something Genra had learned to recognize, the focused intensity humans display before a hunt. We would stop running. We would stop hiding. We would hunt the hunters. The chamber erupted in voices, some outrage, others intrigue. Elder Thune raised his tentacles for silence. When quiet returned, he addressed Santos directly. Humanity has limited military resources compared to established Union members. What exactly are you proposing, Captain? A joint task force, Santos replied without hesitation. Mixed units combining human tactical thinking with the unique biological advantages of Union species. We'll defend Nexus Station. The Vex will target it next, but not with traditional methods. The debate raged for hours, but with the Vex threat growing and conventional defenses failing, the Council eventually approved Santos' proposal with a slim majority. Junra found herself appointed as the diplomatic overseer for what humans were already calling Operation Predator. 2 weeks later, Genray observed the training of the first mixed-species combat unit from a viewing platform above Nexus Station's repurposed cargo bay. Below, 20 beings, 10 humans, and 10 non-humans, moved through combat drills that looked nothing like traditional Union defense training. Commander Amara Chin, a compact human female with a reputation for tactical brilliance, walked among the trainees. "Look at the person beside you," she called out, her voice firm. "They may not share your biology, they may not share your homeworld, but from today, they share your fate." She stopped before a tall, insectoid Ravi, whose mandibles clicked nervously. Beside him stood a human marine half his height. "Specialist Wong," Chen addressed the human. "What is your duty to Technician Kist?" Wong straightened. "To understand his strengths and use them to our advantage. To protect his vulnerabilities. To trust him to do the same for me." "And you, Technician Kist." The Ravi's translator conveyed his response. "To use my superior visual range to spot threats. To remember that humans cannot see in ultraviolet. To warn rather than flee when danger approaches." Chen nodded sharply. "Good. You're learning." Genra was joined on the observation deck by Elder Thune. "Fascinating methodology," the ancient molluscoid commented. "They're teaching predator behavior to prey species." "Not quite," Genra corrected, understanding dawning as she watched. "They're teaching pack hunting. There's a difference. Solitary predators hunt for themselves alone. Humans evolved as pack hunters. They protected each other, shared resources, communicated constantly." Thune's eyes swiveled independently, one watching the training below, one fixed on Genra. "You've studied them closely, Ambassador." "I've had to. Understanding humans means understanding how dangerous and how valuable they could be to the Union." 3 days later, long-range sensors detected a Vex battle fleet approaching Nexus Station. 30 warships moving in the precise formation that had shattered Union defenses in previous encounters. In the station's command center, Captain Santos and Commander Chen presented their defense strategy to the governing council. Even Genra, who had grown accustomed to human thinking, found the plan shocking. "You want to use the station itself as a weapon?" Elder Thune asked incredulously. "Precisely," Chen confirmed. "The Vex expect us to form a defensive perimeter. Instead, we'll create the illusion of a conventional defense, while positioning our real forces inside what appears to be debris and damaged sections. The station will sustain damage," Santos acknowledged, "but controlled damage we initiate, rather than catastrophic damage from Vex weapons." "And the civilian population?" Genray asked, concerned. "Already being moved to the central hub," Chen assured her. "Triple reinforced, with our best defensive systems. But the key to this strategy isn't technology, it's psychology. The Vex expect you to behave like prey. We're going to show them what happens when prey learns to hunt. As the Vex fleet entered the Nexus system, the station appeared vulnerable. Sections seemed damaged, defenses minimal, escape pods launching in apparent panic. The Vex commander, confident in easy victory, ordered standard attack formation. The trap was sprung with deadly precision. What appeared to be debris around the station suddenly ignited with propulsion systems, revealing themselves as camouflaged fighters. What looked like damaged sections of the station opened to deploy weapons platforms. The escape pods reversed course, revealing themselves as guided explosive devices. From the command center, Shenra watched in astonishment as humans and their alien packmates executed a strategy unlike anything the Union had ever employed. They didn't maintain formation. They attacked in seemingly random patterns that revealed themselves as carefully coordinated maneuvers. They used the station's own systems in ways never intended by their designers, venting plasma to create sensor-blinding clouds, redirecting life support power to weapons, creating gravitic distortions with maintenance fields. Most shocking to Shenra was the human capacity for adaptation. When the Vex adjusted to one tactic, the human commanders immediately shifted to another. There was no adherence to protocol, no predictable response, only relentless innovation. "They're retreating," announced the sensor officer after 6 hours of intense battle. The view screen showed the remaining Vex vessels, less than half their original number, disengaging from the battle. The command center erupted in celebration, but Shenra noticed that the human officers remained focused, already directing repair teams and securing captured Vex technology. "You're not celebrating," she remarked to Captain Santos. "The battle's won," he replied, studying damage reports. "The war continues. The Vex will return, and they'll have learned from this encounter, just as we have." Shenra considered this. "You expected this outcome?" Santos finally looked up from his console, a tight smile forming. "I hoped for it. Humans have a long history of being underestimated." In the weeks that followed, Nexus Station became the center of a transformed Union military doctrine. Human trainers established programs on a dozen worlds, teaching Union species not just combat tactics, but a fundamentally different way of thinking about conflict. Mixed species units formed, combining the unique biological advantages of diverse species with human strategic concepts. Not everyone welcomed the change. On several Union worlds, protests emerged against the militarization of their peaceful society. "Humans will make us into predators," the protesters claimed. "Peace is our way." Shenra found herself increasingly serving as a bridge between human military advisors and concerned Union citizens. In a public address from the newly repaired Grand Concourse of Nexus Station, she faced these concerns directly. "The Vex do not ask if we wish to fight," she told the assembled representatives and the billions watching via neural broadcast. "They give us only the choice of how we will lose, unless we learn to defend ourselves. Humanity has not made us into predators. They have taught us that defense requires more than passive resistance." Captain Santos joined her after the address as they walked through the station's botanical gardens, a place where species from 1,000 worlds grew together in carefully maintained harmony. "Your speech will change minds," he said. "Some minds," she agreed. "Others will resist until they face the Vex themselves." Santos stopped before a flowering plant from Earth, a species called roses that combine delicate beauty with sharp thorns. "Do you know why humans succeeded as a species, Ambassador?" Shenra considered. "Your predatory adaptations. Partly. But more importantly, our ability to expand the definition of pack." He gestured around the station. "Early humans protected only their immediate family, then their tribe, then their nation. Each time we expanded the circle of who we considered our people, we grew stronger." He touched the rose gently, avoiding its thorns. "Now our pack includes beings from worlds we never imagined, and we'll protect them with the same ferocity we once reserved for our own kind. Genre understood then what had been missing in the Union's peaceful expansion across the galaxy. Not aggression or militarism, but the fierce protectiveness that came from seeing diverse beings as part of one's own pack. As they resumed walking, Santos added quietly, "We're not trying to turn the Union into predators, genre. We're trying to show you that defense can be active rather than passive, and that sometimes the best way to preserve peace is to convince potential enemies that attacking you would be a terrible mistake." 6 months later, a Vex diplomatic vessel entered Union space under a flag of truce, requesting negotiations. The once implacable enemy had found something they hadn't encountered before, a coalition of supposedly prey species that had learned to fight with the coordinated ferocity of apex predators, while retaining the cooperative social structures that had built their civilization. As Junra prepared to join the negotiation team, she reflected on how dramatically the galaxy had changed since humans arrived. The Union remained committed to peace, cooperation, and diversity. But now, those ideals were protected by something new, the understanding that defense sometimes required predator instincts. The galaxy had new apex predators. Not humans alone, but the unique combination of human tactical thinking and Union species' diverse biological advantages. Together, they had become something entirely new, and the galaxy would never be the same.